It's happening. I'm hype. It's a little bit earlier than I expected it, but GGG as always delivers. I haven't read through this yet, so I'll be going through this completely live. If I happen to misread something, then don't worry, I'll try and double back on everything at the end, just to make sure I haven't misunderstood anything, but the hype is real. Let me just turn down that OST just a tiny bit. Okay, now, brace yourselves. 2.6 includes a long list of changes to game balance. Our primary intent is to better enable a larger selection of powerful build types and skill choices. Glacial Hammer. Many of the more extreme changes to core systems have been held until the fall of Oriath Beta, while 2.6 will have a stronger focus on improving underused passives, weapon types, unique items, and skills, with a focus to their threshold jewels. These changes will all combine to create a large selection of new builds to try out. Please, Volify, please. Improvements to the passive tree. Various improvements to specific clusters and the locations of passives have been made, making areas which weren't taken frequently more efficient, and opening up some new options for builds. Some physical to cold conversion has been added to the passive tree near the ranger area. Interesting. This allows for skills like Ice Shot and Frost Blades to have more conversion to cold than ever before. PogChamp. A new weapon, elemental damage cluster, has been added to the passive tree near the ranger. This music's making me hype, man. This now allows for dexterity aligned characters who specialize in elemental attack skills to invest more of their points into damage. The area between the shadow and the rangers being made more efficient and less restrictive, while also improving the efficiencies of clusters in that section of the tree. The thick-skinned cluster now attaches to the outside perimeter. We have a bridge. Mana has been added behind Mind Over Matter, allowing for those builds to be better than ever before. Some claw, staff, and sword passives have received some special attention and should now be more powerful overall. The Vitality Void and Spirit Void clusters near the Duelist's starting area that grants life and mana leech to attack damage has been rearranged, and is now also attached to the outside perimeter path. Oh, so you can link both away. Ooh, that's very good. The Sword Critical cluster has been made part of the Ranger's large exterior sword cluster. People wondering where that moved to. The other path of the sword cluster has been significantly reworked to grant more power. The Master Fletcher Blow cluster between the Ranger and Duelist has been removed, and the Avatar of the Hunt cluster has been moved to its old location. I'd need to double check that. Leech effects in the shadow of the tree now leech from all attack damage. Very powerful. Not just, that's really, really good actually. The lightning clusters, arcing blows and crackling speed have been combined. Fucking hell. And arcing speed has been improved. So it'll be like a dual thing? Okay. Master of Force, the physical cluster in the Sun area, and Ash, Frost, and Storm, the elemental cluster in this area, now grant a small value of reduced reflect damage taken. PogChamp. Many other changes have been made to pathing, positioning, and values to improved underused passive skills. That's really good. I was actually thinking about making more builds which went up that way, but that's huge actually. Elemental conversion. Some unique items that converted elemental damage to other elemental damage types have had their conversion values lowered. Oh. To increase the opportunity cost of total element-to-element conversion. Converting spells to other damage types was so easy with Pyre and Call of the Brotherhood that it compromised elemental identity for many skills. Okay, fair enough. So less Cold to Fire, but okay. We've made it slightly easier to convert more physical to elemental damage for some attack skills. Frostblades and Ice Shot now have 60% physical. I was literally complaining about this to Eldo earlier on. We were talking about Ice Shot for some reason. Like, it's so dumb that it only has 40%. That's really good. That's actually huge because now there is an advantage to using these because they have that larger elemental conversion than the other skill options. Wild Strike now converts 100. Seems good. I've messed my hair up. Unique item rebalance. Over 100 unique items have been rebalanced. Does that include the legacy ones? I'm assuming it does. With a focus on improving underused uniques that didn't have a strong role in the game. We've tried to make sure that all uniques either have a positive impact on leveling characters, act as a good item to wield when first entering maps, or have a defined role for endgame characters. So basically everything has a clear purpose, which I like. We've got more changes coming in future, but we've managed to take changes to a significant number of older uniques. One-handed weapon damage and weapon implicits. One-handed weapons were seeing very little use outside of daggers and specific one-hand skills. To improve player choice, we've increased the base damage of many one-handed weapon types across the board. We've also changed or rebalanced many weapon implicits. Here are some of the major ones. Daggers now have a lower implicit value. This will also apply to already existing dagger implicits, RIP. Previous daggers granted 40, 60 or 80 increased crit chance. These values have been changed to 30, 40 and 50. I kind of like this because now the difference between the daggers themselves is much smaller when you get those juicy rares, so they're much more equal to each other. So that's kind of good, especially for like Vegan daggers and stuff like that. This is to reduce the impact specific base types had on weapon choices and lower the power of the standard critical caster weapon base type. Lower level claw base types granted life leech now grant life on hit, as life leech has very little effect at lower levels. Makes sense. The Marikath claw base types, double claw, twin claw and Gemini, now have separate life and mana on hit values, as they now grant more life on hit. Okay, so basically you get more life and some mana. Marikath thrusting swords have a higher chance to bleed. Ooh. Going from 8 to 12 to 15 to 20. So if you DOS wield them, you get up to 40% chance to bleed on your thrusters. Other thrusting swords have a lower critical multi value. One-handed maces now grant stun threshold at 10/15 rather than the stun duration at 20/40 to increase their ability to stun. Obviously this is way better than stun duration. All saves have had their block values increased. Previously they've granted either 12 or 18. They now grant 18 and 20 respectively. Again, I really like this because you have less of a... When a GG weapon drops in the right base family but on the wrong base, it feels absolutely terrible. Now this makes it feel less terrible. Obviously for attack-based build, you're always going to want the best possible for the most damage, but for casters that's actually quite significant. When it comes to rares anyway. Almost half the one-handed and two-handed sword base types now grant flat accuracy instead of increased accuracy. These should make them more desirable for characters that don't naturally have high accuracy ratings from dexterity. This is going to be a buff to nearly every single character, except for maybe obscurantist builds, but those are obscure at best and terrible. Area of effect changes. All sources, this is long, wow, not even halfway. All sources of increased radius of area skills have been replaced with increased area. This means that rather than the area of the skill increasing geometrically as the player invests in the modifier to the area scale, the radius gained per point of the stat will be lower and lower as heavy investment occurs, similar to diminishing returns. Many old radius increases that have been changed to area increase provide a higher numeric value to compensate for this change. The goal of this change is to make investing in the size of your area skill to be less rewarding the more you invest, so players don't feel like they need to gather every single point of area just to reach their character's full potential. As an example of how this change will work, the map mod that grants increased radius of boss skills previously granted 40% increased area of effect, but now will grant 100% increased area, which results in approximately the same increase to area. That's a big diminishing return. That's a lot of diminishing. As many lower level skills don't have as high a base area, they'll now receive an additional flat bonus to radius at certain levels of the gem. An example of this is Blight, which gains +1 radius every 5. I mean, if all area just has like a base amount, it makes it much easier to understand how much of a boost you're getting with each increase. So if it makes it easier to understand just how much you're gaining with each point or item invested into a flat area, that I sort of like. However, I don't like if builds are losing their niche by investing heavily into area. That feels... All values of curse race and aura race were doubled. Ooh. When converted to curse or area size to result in a similar... Okay, so basically you won't notice a difference in your curse as your area, I think. As an unnoticeable change, melee splash now gains significantly more increased area that did increased radius. Wait. Significantly more area than it did increased radius as gem levels. Melee Splash now gains significantly more increased area, English is hard, than it did increased radius as the gem levels, bringing it much closer to equivalent area skills. So basically, Melee Splash is better. A small number of skulls have had their damage values adjusted. Damage increase has been applied to 2 skills that we were satisfied with the mechanics of, but didn't feel like they dealt enough damage. Sunder now deals more damage with its direct hit, but less damage with its splash. Ice Crash has had its damage increased. A damage reduction has been applied to 1 skill that does simply more damage than other skills of its type, especially after one-handed weapon changes. Blade Flurry has had its Blade Flurry has its damage reduced. High net mace. 2 Val auras have been reduced in power. No. Val Haste now grants slightly lower values of attack, cast, movement speed. Long live Val Grace. Val Discipline, fuck UCI, no longer grants any bonus energy shield. Wow, seriously, fuck UCI. That's huge. I mean, it's still really good, but that's huge. There'll be many more changes to skills coming in 3.0 as part of the fall of RS Beta. Okay, now this is the bit that I'm most hyped for. The Threshold Jewels is the bit that I'm like, ooh. For the majority of Threshold Jewels, the opportunities of having to take otherwise inefficient passive points made the jewels too costly for their effect. All Threshold Jewels now require 40 of their chosen attribute to be available in the area and no longer be allocated. Volley Fire is now amazing. Many have a maximum number of jewels of that type that can be socketed, letting us be more generous with powerful effects that would be problematic if you fill a large portion of your tree with them. I really, really like this. Some existing Threshold Jewels have had their values adjusted, some now have additional effects. We plan to make further changes to Threshold Jewels as part of the beta. Okay, here are some examples. Heavy Strike's Threshold Jewel now grants a 20% chance for double damage and is limited to 2. Viper Strike's Threshold Jewel now also grants a 10% chance to get Unholy Might on hit. Per poison stack on the enemy and is limited to 1. For how long though? On hit. So just on that one hit? That's good though, but I don't know how good. Vigilant Strike's Threshold Jewel now grants allies to fortify for 20 seconds, up from 3, and is limited to 1. I mean, that's huge, but not much party. That's still really good, but there's not much party play, but that's still fucking amazing. We'll reveal the full patch notes and skill tree for content update 2.6 a few days before it launches on March 3rd. Due to the number of changes being made, all players receive a one-time full passive reset at that time. Hog. Champ. Okay. So I don't think I screwed anything up. They're making Val Haste slightly less good, which, I mean, I actually kind of like this because a lot of my builds had enough movement speed that they didn't need more movement speed, so I was just running stuff like Val Lightning Traps and Val Graces. So now I'm more likely to use stuff like Val Lightning Trap and Val Grace, so that I like. Val Discipline, I've always been a big fan of life builds, so I don't mind that change. But to be honest, it was overpowered, so it needed some attention because it was just too powerful. Blade Flurry was done, people were complaining about it constantly in my stream, so now hopefully I don't have to listen to as much QQ. Both Thunder and Ice Crash definitely needed love. The radius change, it seems like it's going to be a buff for skills with small radius, which is nice, and it will also make a lot of the attack-based builds which can't get into Templar and Witch feel less bad that they can't get into Templar and Witch. So that will hopefully alter some of the trees. It will make less builds feel like they have to go over to those areas. It will potentially allow Saboteur builds to ignore going AoE completely because they're just going to get loads from Saboteur. So that's potentially a big buff or nerf to Saboteur depending on how you route your tree. It'll just depend on if you go left anyway, then it's kind of a massive nerf. If you stick to the right side, it's quite a big buff because you're getting more base AoE just from the Ascendancy itself. All of these changes I'm happy with, even though daggers have taken a slight hit. I'm very happy with this. Very, very happy. This, I mean, I'm always happy to see unique items rebalanced. When I was on State of Exile, if anyone who remembers that, and my amazing cam, because for some reason my cam was switching so I look like this, I was saying that I would much rather they went back and changed old items than made new ones, so I'm very happy about that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a full list of them all. Elemental Conversion. This one, I'm a little bit sad about Pyre. just because I have nostalgia for my old Ice Nova to Fire to Chaos build with old school Consuming Darks. But in all honesty, I think that this will be a good long-term improvement for Cold and Lightning, assuming we get some more love to Cold and Lightning in the future. This is like the right step, so I like that. I love Ice Shot getting some more love. I was literally talking about Ice Shot, and me and El were talking about how cool it is when, you know, it chains and it pierces, and it's just a very satisfying skill to play, much like Burning Arrow. It's a very satisfying skill, but it just gets completely outshadowed by Tornado Shot and Lightning Arrow. So now that Ice Shot has that additional conversion, you know, you might have more cases where you think, actually, I might use this over Lightning Arrow, and I might use this over Tornado Shot. And then with even more support on the tree, some more fizz to cold conversion on the tree itself, that's huge. Frostblades I've been a fan of for a long time. Frostblades and Lightning Striker skills I do like. They're finicky skills, and technically they're flawed just because there are some annoyance with how the skills interact. But I enjoy the playstyle when they're working as intended, where they're not getting stuck on pebbles and stuff. I do like both of these two skills. So I'm very happy about those changes. Kind of sad that Burning Arrow didn't get a little bit of extra spice. I know it's getting the new Threshold Jewel, but it's still going to struggle to not get just outshadowed by superior bow skills for AoE, but I like it. From what we've seen so far, I'm slightly... They haven't mentioned Revenge of the Hunted, which makes me sad. There could be additional changes. There could be additional changes that aren't mentioned, but I was hoping that we'd see a little bit more happening on the right side of the tree. This is all pretty significant though, and there is a lot of potential. We need to just see how powerful these clusters are, and I really, 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 really like you. But I'm really interested in the reduced reflect damage, seeing how powerful that is. I've often been frustrated that reduced reflect could only be gotten through Ascendancy and Sybil's Lament. So I was actually talking last night about maybe doing some builds which went into Mind Over Matter. League starter poison bow builds, they don't really have very good auras to run outside of Grace. So potentially doing like a non-crit poison berserker or champion or something which went up to Mind Over Matter, you know, maybe picking up these new reduced reflect nodes, seeing what else is in the area could maybe be a thing. You might see more evasion builds going that way. There was that really good Blade Vortex Mind Over Matter build that people were rocking for a while. That could be kind of cool. Arcing Blows and Cracking Speed being linked together, and Arcing Speed, okay, so they've just combined the name of the two, like, that's cool. I took Arcing Blows in a recent build, so that whole, if everyone remembers the Tempest I did, that just got a lot better, so that's really good. All the sword stuff is PogChamp, all the claw and staff stuff is PogChamp. Yeah. A little bit sad to not see a little bit more life mentions and changes to some life clusters on the right side of the tree, but until we see it, I'm happy with everything so far, and I think that it's all pretty much spot on. So thank you, Rory, thank you, Bex, thank you all the other people at GGG. You have my goodwill, and enjoy it until I find something to complain about in the near future, which I'm sure I will. I'm Tarke. This is amazing. Have a good day. Bye-bye.